Hello guys, I am Fizzy and welcome back to another Project Cars League race. This is round 3 of the AOR Formula Renault 3.5 Championship that started a week ago. Round 3 and 4 even, because we're of course still running the double race format with 2 races per night. A feature race first of all, which is what I'm currently qualifying on in the footage you're seeing, and then we will have a half race distance sprint race following it as well. And you can see, most of you will probably recognize the track. We are Monza in Italy, a real high-speed circuit with a lot of long straights, of course, and some quite dodgy chicanes, I guess you can say. Pretty tricky chicanes. Yeah, the first and second chicanes been very slow speeds, and with some huge curves on the inside of them, going through the two Lesmos there, two really fast and fun corners, and then coming down the straight towards a triple chicane complex of the Ascari section, as we try to set a good qualifying lap for this race. Of course, I'm going into this leading the championship somehow by 2 points over Pedro RC, something I did not expect to happen before the season started. Obviously went in a little bit in the unknown in terms of where my pace was going to be and stuff. And suddenly, after one night, I'm leading the championship, so I was, of course, hopeful of trying to do my best to make sure it stayed that way, but another challenger had emerged with today holding provisional pole for a lot of this qualifying session. However, as we crossed the line, I couldn't improve. Well, I could improve my time to 1:30.7, but I could not improve my position, meaning that today did take pole for this feature race. 0.3 of a second is what he had on me, and then I had 3 further tenths on my teammate Andrex, who qualified in the third, with my championship rival from the first event, Pedro, in fourth. So, taking to the grid for a 20-lap race, feature race here at Monza, and the lights are about to go green, and here we go, and again it's a shockingly horrendously bad start for me, losing a lot of ground on today and being jumped by both Pedro and my teammate Andrex, with Hideaki very close behind in the braking zone. Oh, and there's a car flying up the inside there. I believe that was Juzzers completely missing his braking point into the corner, or being hit in the back. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but unfortunately that has taken Andrex out, my teammate, and Pedro as well was struggling. Lost me a bit of time on the exit. Paradischi has shot up to third position. That has created all sorts of chaos. That car coming down the inside into turn 1, as we are now defending a little bit from Hideaki into the second chicane. The two teammates, or not teammates even, that is the reserve driver livery, Stelling and Paradischi, both the reserve drivers going into this race, actually stepping in for some drivers that could not attend, as we are pretty much side by side with Paradischi going through the Lesmos there, but we managed to hang it around the outside on the exit of Lesmo 2 to reclaim that position up to P3 again. And you can see on the minimap in the top left that its field really has spread out because of that turn 1, you know, bit of a mess back there. Big gap from, I would guess, behind 6th or something, down to the rest of the field. As today, though, in the lead has pretty much only one not affected by any sort of trouble there. He's really shot off into the distance, already leading by several seconds on both Stelling, me, and the rest. After the first lap here. He's starting the second lap now, as we are now trying to close the gap on Stelling, the Dane, ahead of us to, you know, another fellow Scandinavian driver in this league. Paradischi still the car behind, and DRS wide open, remember, going into the very tricky braking zone for turn 1. It is tricky because it's such a high speed that you enter with, and you have to, you know, try and brake as late as you dare to get the most amount of speed you can carry through there. So moving on to a lap later in the second lap, applying a little bit of DRS between the Lesmos there, trying to maximize everything that we can, but obviously that will automatically close when you enable the brakes. We have gained a little bit of time on Stelling. Paradischi behind us had a mistake somewhere, because you can see he's dropped off somewhere. And also typed Jesus Christ in the chat. So something's gone wrong for him there, unfortunately. Hideaki now the car in 4th position, second or 2 behind. And we're still keeping on to the back of Stelling. You can just see Today in the background, way ahead, as we got very close to the back of Stelling, but we got a good exit out of the first chicane there, actually on lap number 3, pulling into the slipstream, which is usually pretty strong in this car. Actually, for some reason, I'm just kind of claiming half slipstream there. Not sure what I was thinking. Maybe I didn't feel like there was a chance there to properly have a go, because we don't want to create any sort of problems. Speaking of problems, a little bit of a moment there maybe for Stelling. Didn't lose too much speed from it though. Pedro, importantly for the championship, has left the session. His problems were fatal for him in this particular race, unfortunately, as we completely messed up the first Lesmo there as well. Just put a wheel in the gravel. That cost us a lot of momentum and a time through there, meaning that we had to close the gap again, but we did do that to start lap 5 now, with Stelling just ahead and actually Hideaki just behind, who has closed the gap on us as well. So turning into a little three-way scrap at the moment through the first chicane once again. So slow speed first gear in these cars, and then back on the throttle, up the gears again all the way to 6th with a DRS enabled as well. Can we claim some slipstream this time? Getting a little bit late on the straight though, but he's not going to go defensive. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be enough alongside to really have a go there. Definitely do not want to be too wide through there. Oh, as we got the 2 wheels there for a bit as we went to the curb, but Stelling's messed up that exit even more than we had, which put him way out wide, and we managed to claim that position from him, with Hideaki also slipping through, as you can see behind there in the mirror at the top. And I have to say, it's such a scary feeling going on 2 wheels over the curbs in this car, because usually when you do that, it really wants to spin you out. But luckily we didn't do that, and actually somehow managed to make a pass while doing it as well, due to Stelling's mistake. But you can see on the timer in the bottom left, the gap to today, 12.3 seconds. I mean, he is completely just run his own race while I've been battling with these guys behind, and I believe Stelling and Hideaki might have had some problems back there, considering the gap to Stelling is now 3.6 seconds. But oh, there's 2 wheels again, and we got around this time on the first chicane. That's what I meant. 2 wheels, the car wants to spin, and I couldn't save it once that had happened. Obviously turned in a little bit too early for that second apex. Not quite how we wanted that to go, meaning we had to catch back up to Stelling once again, which we did. Lap 10 out of 20 now into the second chicane with the back marker not too far ahead. Stelling always missed the second apex, and our race gone right round, baby, right round. As we get nicely past the back marker, but Stelling is the other minimap. He's taking ages to recover that car, dropping over 7 seconds behind. So I made a mistake. He responded by making an even bigger one. In a sense, a bit of a shame, because it would be nice to have someone to battle with. You can see we now skip on to lap 15. We are pretty lonely on the track now. Stelling actually closing in a little bit. He's gained a 10.5 since he had a spin, or not 10.5, a second and a half. Oh, as we actually nearly get wiped in the rear from a backmarker who seemed to let us through, but then decided to make it a bit of a scary moment. Either way, didn't really matter in the end. Lap 20, final corner through Parabolica. Today has won the race by a big margin. Stelling never got close enough to challenge. He actually dropped further back in the end, meaning we could cruise over the line in second place in the feature race here at Monza. Yeah, 37 seconds behind Today, who, well, to be fair, he ran the whole race in clean air without any sort of problems. I had a few mistakes and a bit of battling as well. As we have now skipped on to showing the results from the second qualifying session, the qualifying for the sprint race, I managed to get a tiny bit closer to Today in terms of the gap. I improved my lap time by a 10th to 30.6, but 2.5 tenths off Today still. So it was another second place qualifying from me. Today really just seemed to have the pace on everyone around this particular circuit. But the lights are now out again for the second race, and again it's another absolute shockingly bad start from me, and you're probably getting a bit annoyed with me for having these horrendous starts, and I'm getting equally frustrated, to be honest. I'll get back to that though, as we first focus on the action into turn. Only got a car on inside trying to leave the space there and keep it tight on exit. I felt a touch on my rear there through the second part of the chicane. Luckily got away with it without being spun around or getting any sort of damage to the car. Dropping behind Stelling once again though. Seemed to have watched the rear of his car for quite a while today. With Today and Pedro, the two guys in the top two right now, getting pressured a little bit from Hideaki once again behind. But he had a poor chicane, so had Stelling, who is going to defend through Lesmos. And once again, second race running, I'm on the outside of a car through the Lesmos on the first lap. Can we hang it around the outside this time again? Yeah, Stelling backs out of it. So we're gonna hang on, never mind. That was a big slide, luckily a big save as well on the exit of the second Lesmo there to keep the car pointing straight. But that has meant that instead of focusing on the top two and trying to close that gap, we have to focus once again for the, you know, God knows how many times, focusing on trying to get back past Stelling. Can only hope he makes another mistake at some point, unless I make one first, which has happened also in the past. So on to lap 2, second chicane again, braking very late and lucky in the rear there, getting hard on that curb, but Stelling again has made a mistake, just like he did in the feature race as well, which, despite me making a mistake at the chicane, means I've gained a position. And I think that was Esteban Viso behind actually has gained the position from Stelling. They're going to be battling maybe back there now. So Stelling making a carbon copy mistake. That's what he did in the feature race, dropping behind me and another car after a mistake on the second chicane. Esteban now behind, having a little look in my mirrors into Ascari. Luckily he was not anywhere near close enough to actually have a proper challenge through there. But he's going to have the slipstream on the run down to Parabolica. And to be honest, at this point I didn't really want to get into battle with him. As you can see, he's looking off the inside again. Luckily backing out of it so I can take the apex and carry the speed through Parabolica. But yeah, my ambition in this race is to beat Pedro and today. So I'd rather focus on trying to close that gap now instead of having Esteban all over the back of me, but I couldn't shake him at the moment. He was really putting me under pressure in the opening laps here. So lap 4 now into the second chicane. This time taking this nicely into here. You can see behind me Esteban actually had a mistake. He's dropped back and lost out a lot of time. Paradiski up to 4th place back there and 4 seconds behind us. So now I can finally try to focus on the gap ahead, which is 3 seconds to Pedro. That is a tough call to close that in just 6.5 laps. And unfortunately that didn't quite happen. I tried my best. I did close about 1.5 seconds on Pedro going into the final lap of the race. A little bit of a slide through the first chicane. A backmarker facing the wrong way there on the gravel for some reason, which has gained me another couple of tenths on Pedro, who got a little bit more caught up by that, but no problems for him. So all I'm really hoping for at this stage, with less than a lap to go, is for Pedro to make some sort of mistake, but he hasn't done so all race, so I wasn't really gambling on it. And there's the mistake. It didn't happen for Pedro, it happened for me instead, hugging that curb too hard once again. So the hope was lost, unfortunately. Running the final corner of the sprint race, today is going to take his second consecutive win here at Monza, with Pedro claiming second and me, again though on the podium, at least in 3rd position across the line. To end off a pretty solid event, to be honest. Another couple of podiums, no race wins this time though, today being just a dominant figure around Monza. No one can match his pace, neither me or Pedro. He won by 7.4 over Pedro in the end, with me a further second behind. And what that is going to do for the championship is still have me in the lead actually, and actually I've increased my gap because of Pedro's DNF in the first race. He was the man 2 points behind into this event. He's now 20 points behind, which is quite a bit shift, but however, having jumped him is today with those 2 wins, he has moved himself up to 2nd place in the championship. 13 points is the gap from me down to him, so it's all getting a bit nervy in the championship fight that I didn't expect to be in, but that I am in, and therefore will try my very best to stay at the top of the table as we move further through the season. But today's showing today that that was fun, that he is a very fast driver, so it'll be interesting to see whether I can challenge him next time out when we are at the Nürburgring GP circuit. That should be another good one, hopefully. So yeah, I hope you'll join me for that as well when the time comes. Until then though, guys, I thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good time. Until next time, I will see you later. Goodbye.